In today's show, we continue our season reviews looking at Nassir Little after taking a step back in his fourth season in the league. What's next for Nas and the Portland Trailblazers? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. It's coming at you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. So start your days with it. Tell your friends to do the same. Make it your first listen. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we are continuing our season reviews. Today's episode all about Nassir Little. We've running down everyone that was on the roster at the beginning of the year, looking at where they made it to the end of the year and what is next. We'll also do some look back at some other guys as well, but we're starting with the folks who started night one on the roster. We've already done Shaedon Sharpe, we've done Anthony Simons, Yusuf Nurkic, Jeremy Grant, and now Nassir Little. Nas, his fourth season in the league, the year that maybe he was going to have an opportunity to prove he was an NBA starter. He was going to have an opportunity to step into, there was space for him, at least it appeared, to step into a bigger role. So I want to look, what we do in these reviews is we look back at what Nas did in the 2022-23 season. Then we'll revisit my best and worst case scenarios from the preseason, kind of think about where we thought Nas was back in September, and we will look back to look forward and talk about it at what is next for Nas as he enters the summer with a multi-year, 4-year contract extension about to kick in next year. That's what we'll do in today's show. Let's get it started by looking back. On the year, Nassir Little averaged 6.6 points, 2.6 boards, shot 44% from the floor, 36.7% from three, a career high, 71.7% from the free throw stripe. Appeared in 54 games, 4 starts, 18.1 minutes per night. Pretty much down across the board from year 3. Year 3 played 26 minutes a night, down to 18 in year 2. In year 3, averaged 9.8 points per game, down to 6.6 in year 4, down in assists, 1.3 to 0.9. Way down in rebounds from 5.6 to 2.6. Some of that is because he started to shoot more three-pointers, spent more time on the perimeter and less time crashing the glass. I think his role and his kind of what he was out there doing, in some ways he was playing a lot less of this like slasher and much more of a spacer, and I think that took away some of his strengths, particularly as an offensive rebounder. The shooting really was there for Nas. Like, this was a career high from three. You know, he shot 35% from three in his second season, but on super limited volume. Just 83-point attempts. Took 158 threes, a career high, and made a career best 36.7% from deep for him. He through 40 games, Nas was really, really shooting. Actually, before we get into his shooting splits, before the season even started, Nassir Little signed a contract. One of the big questions, even back when I did my season preview, was when Nassir Little going to, he was extension eligible, but he had some availability issues with a whole bunch of weird health stuff, and some just sort of low production. But he closed the year strong, even ended with some injuries, but closed the year strong. 9 points and shooting, and it's like, okay, he's averaging about 10 and 5. And he's shooting right below a league average from three. If he averages, say, like 12 and 7, but shoots above league average from three, like, that's a player right there. Like, you're getting something. And the question was whether he was going to bet on himself or take the money, and he took the money on October 17th, about a day and a half before the deadline to sign an extension for players in Nassir Little's situation. He agreed to a 4-year, $28 million contract extension with the Portland Trailblazers, which kicks in at the beginning of next season. It's fully guaranteed, no options. And to be clear, this is basically unheard of for someone in Nassir Little's situation. Signing before the season starts a multi-year agreement for a first-round pick that is less than the projected mid-level exception for the next year. So if he was just like go out into the world, you would accept he would, like, as a free agent, he would get, he's 24, entering free agency. It's like, well, he'd probably get at least mid-level money which is like $10 or $11 million annually, and say he gets that over 3 seasons or 2 seasons over instead of 4, you're talking like $22 million in 2 years versus $28 million in 4. The Nassir Little clearly prioritized the years, 4 years of guaranteed, after the health and the inconsistencies he's had in his career. It's like 4 years of guaranteed contract. That's what I want. Guaranteed money, $28 million. No, it's like, that's not a small amount of money in like real life, like for you or I listening to this program, but it's NBA money's crazy. And he took a steep discount, basically, like I said, basically an unheard of discount to stick around with the Trailblazers. Good for him to get the security, a unique decision that not everyone would make. He has a chance to be one of the great value contracts in the league if he's anything close to a productive player, borderline starter, one of the best value contracts in the league. Basically, Nas's season went like a lot of his others he have gone in his first 3 years. Appeared in the first 21 games, never played more than 24 minutes. He was a bench guy, and then on November 29th, he was injured in non-contact play against the Clippers. He was driving into the paint around the free throw line, took a weird step, collapsed, apparently had at that moment sustained a fractured bone in the ball of his hip. There's like a medical term for it, but the hairline fracture in the ball of his hip. Missed 21 games, returned January 15th, so missed 6 weeks basically on the dot. And he wasn't among the players for the Blazers that was shut down in March, but then he sustained an ankle injury on March 31st. Dame, Ant, Yusuf Nurkic shut down on March 22nd. Nas is probably going to be part of the group that played to the end of the year because it's just like, get him minutes. He's not good enough to like really cost you games, and the Blazers let him loose. Ankle injury on March 31st, missed the final 5 games, and that was that for his season. The thing about Nas's shooting is that it was absolutely a career high, a really special shooting season for him because he ticked up to, right at the league average from 3 on, not a super high volume of attempts because he just played that much, 18 minutes a night, but like his 3-point rate like skyrocketed up. He became just like a bomber from 3. That was like his roles. Like he comes in, he shoots 3-pointers. His shot diet changed to where he really, really stopped driving. He wasn't getting offensive rebounds and crashing in the paint. He was shooting 3s. And through the first 40 games that he appeared in, that's through the end of February 28th, he was shooting 42% from 3. 42% from 3 in his first 40 games. Then he closed the year from March 1st on in the final 14 games, 11 of 46 from 3. That's 24%. And that's how he dropped from 42 to 37 on the year. Like he was above 40% 3-point shooter for most of the season. The other thing to know about Nas is that he just didn't play that much. Like huge drop off in minutes, but they added Justice Winslow, or they like added Justice Winslow to the mix permanently. They added Josh Hart to the mix permanently. They added Jeremy Grant to the mix. Like these guys were going to be ahead of him. They're going to play Shaedon Sharpe some minutes on the wing. Gary Payton just never came to fruition for him, but it was like there was some crowdedness with trying to find Nas minutes, but he just straight up never played. He played 30 minutes. Over 30 minutes in 4 games all year long. 54 appearances, 18 minutes a night. 4 of those games, he played over 30 minutes. Twice in the tanking era in March, so after everyone's shut down, he plays over 30 minutes, played 40 minutes one of those nights. Once in the post-All-Star game in Sacramento with the blizzard and the delayed flight when they held out Jeremy Grant and Damian Lillard, so like incomplete roster, Nas plays 30-plus minutes. And then once in January 25th, when Josh Hart injured his hamstring and only played 9 minutes. So basically when the team was fully healthy, full complement of players or close to it, without players actively getting hurt or missing time, Nassir Little never played 30-plus minutes in a game. He just never got an opportunity. I say that more as a statistical oddity. I do not think Nas was very good this year with consistency. I think the defense just never got there. I think while he had moments where he was really shooting it from 3, he wasn't doing much else on offense. Not a dribbler, not a passer. So it's like, it's not like there were nights when I was like, why isn't Nas playing? For sure. Many of those nights, 30 of them, right? A bunch in his 54 appearances. But I don't think there were nights where I was like, maybe you were, wherever you are, but like for me, I wasn't like pulling my hair out, screaming, eyes bleeding, Nassir Little has to play more. And 30 minutes is kind of like a random cutoff, like playing 28 is a perfectly fine number of minutes for Nas. He's just not 30, but four games of 30, basically 0 real games where he played 30 plus minutes. I think just like factually, he didn't get much opportunity. He was the guy who got squeezed when they got Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle. Cam Reddish got much more opportunity than Nas, probably because they wanted to see what Cam Reddish could do, and Nas is under contracts and all that, but Nas just never got opportunity. One of the bad parts about him, other than just like the straight up injury, he, at the end of the year, like he just would have played more, and maybe that would have helped him earn something in the future. It's hard to know, but he just didn't play much this year. He went from a guy who was playing a bunch and looked like he was going to carve out a big role. You're going to hear my best and worst case scenarios. I thought he was going to start the year. I thought he was going to start at small forward. I was really a big believer in him. I don't think it's not like he deserved to be an NBA starter. In fact, I do not think he was like super, super good this year. I just think like factually, he didn't get enough opportunity. He didn't get much opportunity, and he probably deserved a bunch more. Nassir Little, according to the Blazers, they announced that at the beginning of April, he underwent core muscle injury surgery. He had a similar procedure back in May of 2022. So that's each of the last 2 off seasons where he's had this core surgery. The press release says he'll be good to go, but I don't trust the Blazers in injuries, so hopefully Nas is ready. The press release means nothing to me. Let's look back to look forward with Nassir Little. We'll revisit my best and worst case scenarios from back in September and my season previews. Hear from Michael from the past to what I thought Nassir Little was going to be coming into camp, coming into the season, and that'll help us get a sense of where he landed this year before we look forward to what's next for Nassir Little. That's what we will do, but first, let me tell you about Gametime. Look, getting tickets to your favorite sporting events shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be a hassle. It shouldn't be something that gives you a great deal of anxiety. In fact, why not just use Gametime.co? And it's the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for sports, for music you want to see, for comedy you want to see, for the theater you want to see, plus killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. So you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets up to the day of the event, plus exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and much more. Plus, the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section, the same row, for less money. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. So, snag your tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's a great time to get involved with FanDuel. We got the NBA playoffs rolling along. We got the start of MLB season, and plus new customers. You can step up to the plate or toe the free throw line and get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Place your first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Let's look back to look forward. What we do in these season previews is we revisit my best and worst case scenarios that I recorded in preseason. I recorded this before Nassir Little signed his contract. I recorded this believing fairly strongly in Nassir Little getting a chance to be a starter this season. So let's listen to Michael from the past, help us sort of set our expectations for what I thought, you maybe didn't think it, what I thought way back before the season started, and that'll help us look forward. Take it away, Michael from the past. What's the best case scenario for Nassir Little? It's that he's the answer at small forward. He's the answer at small forward from night 1. He's the answer from small forward in night 41. He's an answer at small forward in night 82. He's the answer at small forward in the playoffs. He's the guy. And he's the guy because his length and his defense all scream that he deserves it, and his production matches it. He's a defensive menace, an elite offensive rebounder, and a slasher that sees an uptick in three-point shooting. From a career 31.7 three-point shooter, he jumps up to 36, 37% shooting a night, and he can guard 4 positions. Stick him on point guards, no prob. Shooting guards, no prob. Small forwards and power forwards, no problem. And in a pinch, Nassir Little is versatile enough on defense to hang with the non-Embiid, non-Jokic centers if you really need him to. The best case scenario is that his strengths as a straight line driver and a glass cleaning enthusiast are complemented by a tighter handle, a budding playmaking game, and that improved shooting. He becomes a absolute menace in the open floor, a terrifying straight line driver if you give him a second side and a lane to get the rim. He's already so good at it, and he continues to grow in those spots. But the best case scenario is that those skills that he already has, while they are sharpened, they are complemented by a better handle so he can get where he wants to go, not just on straight line drives, but a couple different moves. He's got a pretty good pull-up game. In fact, he's a much better mid-range shooter than he is a shooter from, say, the corners or above the break threes. It's that shooting, that the mid-range touch gives him more versatility and more ways to beat a defense on the offensive end, and makes him a half-court problem in a way that he really hasn't been. It's those skills that sharpen with the added skills of shooting, with the added skill of that better ball handling I talked about, and the added skills of playmaking. He showed a little bit of improvement to be certain as a playmaker, but he's not a natural passer. He's someone who's improving there. And the best case scenario is that those skills that he hasn't quite harnessed are coupled with the skills that he has, and that he is just the two-way wing that everyone dreams of. The best case scenario for Nassir Little is that he is an NBA starter, and this year he is makes an emphatic case to be that NBA starter, and it is obvious from night one, and it is obvious throughout the year, and because it's so obvious, he gets the bag in the offseason. The best case scenario for Nassir Little is that he is a core piece of this group going forward. He's going to be 23 at the end of next season, 23 as he enters the summer. A 23-year-old with a big payday and a guaranteed spot as a starting small forward on a team on the rise. That's the best case scenario for Nassir Little. What's the worst case? Is that he regrets not taking the money this summer. The worst case scenario is that he proves he's mostly an undersized power forward. He doesn't have the floor stretching skills and the ball handling skills to play on the wing, and that he's probably more suited to be a 4, someone without the ball in his hands and more as like a pick and roll type of garbage man threat than a true NBA wing. It's the worst case scenario is that while he still is clearly a long-term NBA contributor, because I truly believe his floor is like play a decade in the league, it's that he proves that he's not a starting level talent, that the lack of shooting and the lack of wiggle limit his half-court impact, and that while he remains a physical menace and a really outstanding athlete, that the complementary skills and the complementary sort of parts that you would need to make that athleticism truly pop never come around. The worst case scenario is that Nassir Little looks a lot like the Nassir Little of most of his career, someone who is promising and intriguing, but doesn't have the production to match it. Thank you, Michael from the past. I think Nassir Little is the first player that we have done these season reviews where he pretty squarely hit his worst case scenario. The best case scenario stuff with the shooting certainly improved to that level. I said 36-37. He shot 36.7%, literally right in the range. But other than that, he didn't prove he's an NBA starter. He didn't prove he's a long-term part of the Blazers. He didn't play himself into the bag. In fact, he prioritized some job security and said, "Give me 4 guaranteed years in the league over, shorter-term, bigger payday, or just the risk of heading into this next season." Like, imagine Nas coming off this year where he averaged 6 points per game, 6 and 2, or 6 and 3. It's like, hi, yes, I would like $15 million a year. The team I played on never played me 30 minutes in any game that had any meaning unless they absolutely had to because of injury. Yeah, hook it up. I'd love some cash. He did the right thing in the end. Some of it is just like maybe just he had a crappy role that's kind of out of his control, but Yeah, like in the end, he was not going to make a ton of money with the production that he had this year, plus missing a bunch of time with the hip injury, plus with the core surgery this summer. It's like Nas in the end probably did the right thing, right? Like, who knows what the summer will be like with the cap going up and all those things. And maybe some people who are like less productive than him and are also like shy of 24, who's not yet 24 years old. Like maybe other folks in that range will get paid a bunch of money, but I don't think Nas was there. The shooting was special for him this season, particularly early. Shot really poorly to end the year, but he took a step back on defense. It was in his third season. It looked like he was going to be a stopper on the ball. He still was really confused about team defense and as a help defender and all of those things. But it's like you put someone athletic in front of him, he would stick him. I feel like Nas took a step back in that area this year. Also, just like you play less, you don't have the patterns. You don't see the same patterns every night. So it's maybe hard to get into a rhythm, particularly if you're a guy still kind of trying to figure out how to play defense. Hey, go defend for 4 minutes and you get yanked. It's like, it's tough. I'm not really excusing his like development on lack of minutes. I'm just saying, like, sometimes those things are related. I kind of harped on this back and forth. Let me be totally clear. I don't think Nas deserved to play 30 minutes a night. I think he deserved to play more than the 18 he did, and I think it's notable that he played so little. Let's like put it on the table. But I think he took a step back. Like, I think he was worse this year without the shooting. I think he was generally worse this year, and I think some of the shooting took away the special athlete that he was, because in his third season, what made him special was he was like an elite offensive rebounder by the numbers, like an elite offensive rebounder. Great at just tracking the ball off the rim and using it as athleticism. When he became so reliant on shooting threes, that kind of went away. He's not a ball handler. Like, he's a straight line guy. He does not have a second dribble move. Like, he can make one move and go, or he can make no moves and go when he attacks off like a closeout. But he doesn't have wiggle to get past a lot of folks. He's not a playmaker. So shooting, like the shooting is going to be what unlocks the rest of his game, because if you get guarded like a shooter, you can attack closeouts, straight line drives become easier, all of those things, and you just can make shots. Like, it's just life is easier for you. So that's a really nice development. The rest of his game just didn't come along, and then he just didn't get opportunity, which, again, was in some ways out of his control. So what the heck is next for Nassir Little? Like, what do they do? Let's talk about what the heck might be next to close the show, because he's a curious case, right? Under contract for a lot of years, but is he part of the plan? And what is the plan again? All right, let's talk about that to close the show. But first, let me tell you about PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. PrizePicks is simple. You pick 2 and 6 players on every single entry. You're picking athletes from all types of sports: basketball, football, baseball, soccer. I play the NBA because that's what I know, but whatever sports in season, you're going to find players from all those sports, and you're picking over or under the projections, the statistical projections set by PrizePicks. So for basketball, things like points, rebounds, assists, steals, PrizePicks sets the line. You pick above or below that line, and if you get it right, 6 out of 6, make a whole bunch of money, but you don't have to get them all right. You can say, I'll get 4 out of 6, I'll get 5 out of 6. You set the odds, you set the payday. Super easy, and it's just you versus those projections to win your money. Right now, new users, sign up, get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That means you put in $100, giving you $100. You put in $50, they're giving you $50. So go check it out, download it at prizepicks.com or the mobile app, which is, I mess with the app, but you can go to prizepicks.com, check it out. It's daily fantasy made easy, and make sure when you are downloading it, you are using that promo code LOCKEDON. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. What's next for Nassir Little? Well, he's going to be in the league. He got his money. I mean, not the giant payday that maybe Michael from the past thought he was about to get, but Michael from the present, Nassir Little, 4 years, under contract, fully guaranteed, making, just under 6.5 or something like that, just under 7 this year. He'll make like 6.5, just under 6.5, and then just under 7 as this extension kicks in this year, the first year of a 40-year, $28 million contract. I don't see him based on his production. Last year I was kind of like, Nas looked so good to close the year. And like, obviously like Carolina bias, like I'm a Chapel Hill kid, Carolina bias. So maybe I was like drinking that Carolina Blue Kool-Aid, and I was like, he's gonna prove he's gonna be a starter. I can feel it. I don't feel that way now. Like, I think he has a floor of being a long-term NBA player. But the idea that he is going to, over this summer, morph into someone who you could say he can for sure start on a good team, I don't think that's reasonable. I think he could have started on this year's Blazer team because they weren't very good. It might have put Josh Hart in a better role. It might have balanced things better to have Nassir Little play about the same role, like 9 minutes a half, just as a starter. But that's a complaint for another day. That's not a complaint for right now. So here's the thing. I don't see him as a starter. I see him as like a rotation guy. I think if Nas is your 8th best player, you're okay. If Nas is your 9th best player, you're probably a good team. If Nas is on that 9-10 cusp, you're probably a very competitive team. And if Nas is naturally out of your rotation but can play on some nights because he's 10-11, you're like a championship level team. Like that's kind of where I see him. No higher than 8th, and not like buried on the truly good teams. But like he's like a backup wing in the league. I think he would be best served if he could guard like 2s, not bigger guys, but I think he can hold his own against NBA wings, no problem. If he figures it out even a little bit more on defense, he can be a contributor. He's just a negative on defense right now. And I think he has the tools to be better, and he showed in that 3rd season. It's like, okay, maybe he's got the tools, just hasn't put it together. But the real truth of Nas is that regardless of the direction the Blazers go, he can be part of the plan. Like I said, on like the good teams, he's somewhere from that 8. He's somewhere in like, okay, you play every night, but you're not the first guy off the bench. To, okay, you don't play every night, but like you can if we need you because like you're totally competent. He could obviously get better. He's like going to be 24 this year. Like he's like, players improve. But I just think like right now, realistic expectations for the start of the season, something like the 8th guy, something like 8th man. And that on a good team, the Blazers, if they thread the perfect needle and they build themselves like a team that's like a quality, home court advantage in the playoffs type roster that Damian Lillard wishes they could be, Nas can be part of that plan because he's talented enough. He's got some skills. The shooting is there. The athleticism is there. If they ever figure out how to get out and run with any consistency, he could be involved in that. The shooting helps him be a half court player. Tools to be a better defender. Like whatever. You got it. You get it. He could do that. And if they go young, he's under 20. He's like not yet 24. Like I said, he's under 25 years old, under contract for 4 years. If you do go young, like if the Damian Lillard trade thing happens and he's on another team, and they go into a rebuild or they probably won't call it a rebuild, right? They'll retool around Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons. Nassir Little can be part of that plan too because he's young and can grow into that, right? And by the end of this contract, he'll be in his physical prime. He'll be have played almost a decade, 8 years in the league. All of that, like he could really grow into something special by the end of that contract. Like I said, he has the potential to like, if he's just like improves, if Nas gets 25% better or like 30% better, that contract's a steal. If he makes like a significant jump, like if he doesn't just like improve a little bit across the board, but a significant jump, then he's like one of the best deals in the league. He has really high potential to be like deeply underpaid, which stinks for him, but it's great for a team. If you're building a basketball team, the thing you hope is that you have someone who's underpaid for several years out into the future, which Nassir Little certainly could be. So his future with the team to me seems clean because he can go with either plan. He's just either going to be a bench guy or like maybe, who knows what the rebuild looks like. So it's weird to speculate, but like he could just be part of that because of his age and his skill set. Absolutely. He also could be traded, and that's like the reality of it. If the Blazers are going to really retool this summer, Nassir Little right now is one of 6 players under contract for next year. They have a chance to look completely different. And they have decisions to make on restricted free agents Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle, who would eat into Nassir Little's minutes for sure. They have a decision to make on what Shaedon Sharpe does. I like him as a 2 more than a 3, particularly as a 20-year-old. I hope as a 26-year-old that he can play both positions and it's not a thing, but I would rather him be more of not guard the biggest wings. If you'd like, by the difference between 2 and 3, I'd just rather have another big wing on the court with as opposed to like Shaedon Sharpe play that big wing spot. So like whatever that looks like, Nas can fill in sort of in that spot. But I think if they do make this trade, like if they do make these trades to go all in, like Anthony Simon seems very, very likely to get traded. Clearly the most likely player to get traded this summer just because of his skill set and his pay grade. But if you're making secondary trades, the contracts of Yusuf Nurkic and Nassir Little tally together to be in the $25 million range. The Blazers don't have other players in that middle range contract that are under contract, right? Because the other guys who are under contract, in addition to Nas, Damian Lillard, you don't trade Damian Lillard to build around Damian Lillard. Ant, obviously very likely to get traded if that is the route they go. Yusuf Nurkic, $17 million a year, $17 million a year. Keon Johnson could be Jabari Walker, could be Trendon Watford if they opt in. Like, it's just these, Shaedon Sharpe, like they could trade him, but he's making less money. It's like, it seems to be, if you are putting a trade together, especially a secondary trade, Nas's contract would fit because it just naturally, under like the right amount of money, the right amount of years, all of those things. That is just the reality of what it might look like. So the real, like, what's next for Nas is one of the, like, it's a classic question mark of the whole season. He could fit both plans and he could easily be traded. So maybe the real truth is that, like, whatever the Blazers look like, Nassir Little could be part of the plan, and whatever the plan is, Nassir Little could be the tool to help them get there. He's kind of caught in this no man's land because he's not quite a sure NBA starter. He's still young enough to be part of a build, and he's still good enough to be part of a decent team. And yet, coveted and under contract, could be traded on the market. All of it's up in the air for Nas. It's a real question mark. They got a bunch of question marks this season. I'm not going to pretend to know all the answers. I'm just trying to walk you through the logic. That's going to do it for today's show. Come back for more this week. We do it every weekday, Monday through Friday. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to listen as well, to do the same, as I usually say. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.